Hey everybody, it's Mitch, and welcome to my live stream. Today we are going to be talking about some Dungeons and Dragons 3.5. Um, well, we recently hit our 500 subscriber goal, and yeah, so we're doing a few live streams for Q&A for anybody who might have anything they want to talk to me about, ask me about. Really anything. This is basically your chance to talk to me and kind of ask anything you want. No, within reason, of course. Yeah. So, I'm always terrible at starting these off, but I think I'm maybe getting better. Anyways, so yeah, the channel is very big on D&D 3.5. We hit our goal very recently. There should be more videos coming out soon. I'm working on that one. I'm definitely working on getting some videos coming out in the near future. That is the plan. Hopefully, in a few days, I will drop another prestige class video, one that I think will go over well. It's one that, based on some of the other stuff on my channel, I think is gonna hit fairly hard because I've referenced this particular prestige class a decent amount. So yeah. What else? Sorry, excuse me. So yeah, I've been doing that. A lot of the videos that you've been seeing recently have actually been were shot months ago. Uh, Most of the videos that are up currently are old videos from that I shot earlier in the year. Yeah. Anyways, yeah, feel free to talk and chat. This is your chance to ask questions, say hi, all that good fun stuff. Yeah. These live streams that I do for subscribers are pretty much unscripted. It's very much just me responding to whatever chat wants. Whatever chat wants the video to be about is kind of what the live stream ends up being about. Since it's me responding to chats, Q&A, all that fun stuff. Yeah. I'm probably not going to be doing many more Naruto character reviews, if any. The series didn't do that well. It's the channel's been really focusing heavy on 3.5, so I'm going to be focusing a lot more on that. Although I'm not completely abandoning the Naruto stuff. I have some ideas on what to do with the Naruto stuff and how to incorporate it into 3.5. Basically, what the plan is to do some build videos for Naruto characters, based off of what's been getting views on as far as the Naruto characters. So that's kind of the plan with that, to create a new series that kind of incorporates the Naruto stuff into D&D. Since D&D is the big fun. Yo, what's up? Ruru Wow 8. Glad to hear that. Yeah, that's the plan on that. To make some Naruto character review. Well, not some Naruto D&D builds. Probably start with Itachi, since last I checked, that was the video, the Naruto character review with the most views. Most of them are old, but I'll probably start with that one. Just make Itachi Uchiha in Dungeons and Dragons 3.5. That seems like a pretty cool build. That seems like a pretty cool build and a pretty cool video idea. So that'll probably be the first one. I believe my top 3 were, at least last I checked, were Itachi, Hinata, and Shikamaru. So those will be interesting to figure out how to make builds for. So, and I think I'm going to even do a system where I make it so that what level they are kind of depends on how strong they are in the show. So if they're really strong, I'll give them more levels. Whereas if they're not very strong, they're not going to get a lot of levels. So I'll kind of power. I'll kind of scale their builds to the power of the actual character. That seems appropriate. Let's see. I have a lot of builds actually that should be coming out soon. I've been making builds like this whole time, but they were all like being scheduled and for fairly far out. But now is the time where they're all going to just start releasing over the next probably few months or so. There's probably going to be a heavy influx of build videos hitting the channel here fairly shortly, which is kind of cool. And I may do Naruto character reviews every so often. We'll see what happens with that, but it's not going to be a regular thing anymore. Plus, I'm kind of running out of characters, to be honest. There's not many that I can think of that still need videos. There's a few. There's definitely a few, and there aren't any scheduled for Naruto character reviews. I don't have any scheduled ones, but yeah. As for D&D 3.5 stuff, that's going to be the dominant force of the channel. Feel free to ask questions, by the way. Anything you want to ask, more than welcome to ask any questions. That's basically the point of this, is for you guys to have a chance to talk to me, ask questions, all that good fun stuff. This is your guys' reward. I mean, this is my thank you to you, the community, for helping me reach this goal of 500 subscribers. I literally could not have done it without you guys. I mean, you can't get 500 subscribers unless 500 people hit subscribe on your channel, at least not legitimately. And, I'm not about to go using bots or anything. That's kind of cheap. So, yeah. Or just make a bajillion accounts. That's sort of a way to get a few, but I don't have any other accounts. So none of my subscribers are me. I've got some friends and family and stuff, but even that's something. Like, those are still people that are subscribing. They just happen to know me personally. But yeah, who has the time to do that? Yeah, exactly. Exactly. There's not a lot of people that have a ton of time in the world to be making bots. So yeah, I don't do that. Plus, YouTube really doesn't like that. So I'm not going to mess around with that crap. I don't get into that bot, sub botting or sub for sub or any of that junk. That's, ugh. But yeah. As for D&D 3.5, I haven't made a whole. Pretty much all of the videos that I've made that have been coming out lately have been scheduled. I haven't actually made one in a while. I'm going to start making new ones again very soon, very, very soon. As I was mentioning, I'm thinking I'm going to make a prestige class video that's going to be released. The first two I make are going to be more scheduled stuff. But I do a lot of scheduling videos, which has kept the channel alive and actually growing these last few months when I haven't been doing stuff. How about monster tactics? Ooh, that's a good one. So one thing I like to do with monster tactics is when I have a monster in D&D, what I like to do is one of the first things I'll look at is its intelligence. What is the intelligence score of this monster? Is it particularly high? Is it very low? If I have something that's, has a 1 or a 2 intelligence, like it was just like some sort of animal or something, its tactics aren't very advanced. It's going to be relying almost purely on base instinct. It's going to go for whatever's closest to him, whatever it kind of perceives as the threat. It's not going to be too smart. If you have a party of guys out there that, maybe have a cleric in the back, and you have your wizards and archers in the back, and you have your fighters up front and all that. If the thing has a 1 or 2 intelligence, they're going for the fighter. The fighter is the guy up front. He's the one swinging his sword at them. As far as they are able to perceive, that guy's the threat. The guys in the back, less so. Maybe the archer a little bit, but they're going to have a hard time comprehending the guys in the back, especially if the people in the back are just buffing and healing. Those guys aren't going to get targeted because why? They're not doing anything as far as something with 1 or 2 as far as something with low intelligence is concerned. The guy that's not attacking you directly, that's just buffing the guys that are attacking you directly and making those guys hit way harder, he's not doing anything to you as far as you're able to tell. So yeah, and oftentimes you'll just go for like whoever's closest, whoever's doing more damage, things like that. Basic strats that you not even really strats. It's just playing purely off instinct. Um, then when you start getting higher intelligence, you start applying more and more tactical logic. If they have, like maybe a 10 intelligence, you're like, okay, let's at that point, you can realize, okay, maybe going for the guy in the back might be smart. Um, but at the same time, you don't want to think too tactically. You want to see, like, okay, this guy's not that smart. He's of average intelligence. He would know, okay, yeah, it's probably smart to go for the guys in the back, the guys who are buffing, the clerics. You want to go for that healer. You want to go for the guy casting, haste and all sorts of other crazy stuff. Go for that guy because he's despite the fact that he's not actually attacking you, he's the one really messing up everything. Um, so yeah, you go for that guy, but you're not going to be like thinking like 5 turns in advance. All right, well, what if this guy casts that? Then what if he casts that? No, someone with a 10 intelligence, they're not going to be thinking that kind of stuff. They're not that smart. They're they're not exactly dumb, but they're not that smart. They're not going to be thinking 5 moves in advance. But then when you start seeing like, guys with like 20, 30 intelligence, which there are a few monsters that do have that, like pit fiends and stuff, you go all out. You just come up with whatever tactics you can think of. Use any knowledge that that character would have in game about the party, and you go full on playing it as if they're a character. You use every resource you can think of to try and tactically win. Um, not everything's completely legit when they have high intelligence. You go full on play them as if they are a character with advanced tactical reasoning, because you know what they are. These guys have 20 some odd intelligence or some crazy amount. They have advanced tactical reasoning. So yeah, it makes a lot of sense to do that. Um, Yeah, there's some interesting ways you can like combine monsters too. Like one that one of my friends taught me was what you can do is if you take like a beholder and a giant, that's actually a really good combination of monsters. You just try and keep the beholder in the back a little bit, keep his eye up, and just keep that anti magic field going, which really will mess up with your party. But that giant thing about giants is they don't really use magical items very much. They might have like a +1 weapon or something. They might have a little bit. So the anti-magic field will likely hurt them some. But the vast majority of what makes a giant tough isn't their gear and how magical it is. Nah, it comes from well, it comes from the fact that yeah, you're talking about their pure strength, how strong they are. Sorry, I was getting a phone call. But yeah, it's talking about the pure strength and power of um, of this guy, which the anti magic field isn't going to affect. It comes from how big he is. It comes from a high base attack. It comes from a very high strength score. That's why they're tough, not because of their gear, which makes it so that whereas the party, a lot of their stuff, probably about half their strength is coming from their gear. So by combining the two, you end up with a situation where you have the party can't use their full strength. They're maybe about half power because of the anti magic field. But that giant, he's fighting it dang near full. He's fighting it like 95%. The party's at maybe like 60%. So that combination is pretty nice. Plus, the beholder's got some other stuff they can do as well. So that's a pretty nice combo. I'm DMing Curse of Strahd currently. Their first fight with Strahd will most likely be werewolves, and Strahd managing from the back. Oh, interesting. I'm not really familiar with Curse of Strahd personally, but I do know werewolves, and at least somewhat. I haven't looked at them a whole lot, but werewolves are an interesting one. And the whole having like one big guy fighting from the back, that is a strategy I have been looking at a lot. Um, I've been working with a lot of devils lately, and a lot of the devil lords, a lot of them do use that particular strat. So it is something I have had in mind a lot. For that kind of stuff, you would generally use the minions to just like fight and act somewhat as sacrificial pawns, um, fighting and dying while they're the big guy in the back. And not just, I mean, they're willing to give sacrifice their lives. They're not like trying to die, but they're uh, they're front lines fighters. They're out there protecting the big guy, and the big guy would generally be hitting with various spells, blasting spells, debuffing spells, buffing spells for the guys on the front lines, various stuff like that. They'd be out there just in the back casting like spells. Strahd is a wizard, so he has the intelligence to control the battlefield. Yeah, that's the especially with something like that. Yeah, you'd have Strahd just like in the back, casting a lot of spells. Battlefield control is probably going to be a very important one, especially if you personally are tactically minded enough to do it. That can be tricky though. Like you really do personally as a DM, as a person, you need tactical skills, which are not innate. Like not everybody can do that. Some people are really bad at that. Some people are really amazing at that. Your ability to do that varies wildly from person to person. So yeah, but if you're good at that, battlefield control is amazing if you have the skill for it. Other stuff you can do is buffing spells, cast like haste, um, various other spells. What are some good ones? You can cast a greater magic weapon, greater magic fang. Those are some pretty good ones that is for like all day buffing that you might have had him cast ahead of time. There's all sorts of good stuff. I'm trying to remember the exact names of all these spells that are particularly nasty. Um, uh, let's see, LOL. They're not innate. I've had to learn it with time. Yeah, exactly. Tactical reasoning it's tricky because those battlefield controls, if you don't have those skills, they're not good. Battlefield control is amazing if you're tactically minded. If you have a strong tactical mind, battlefield control is so good. Those spells are absolutely amazing. If you have a weak tactical mind, they're bad. They're going to blow up in your face more often than they're actually going to help you. And they're just not going to be very good. If you're okay at it, they're probably going to be somewhat decent. It's going to help you a lot, but occasionally they'll mess you up. And you're not going to get the full advantage of them. Battlefield control spells, people put us in the comments all the time about how great they are, and they can be. They absolutely can be, but it really comes down to the person using them. You really have to be smart about how you use battlefield control. If you're not using battlefield control smart, you're not going to be getting what you want. It just is what it is. Yeah. Let's see. But yeah, you want to use those if you're good at it. If you're not great at it, maybe use some. Maybe use just various buffing skills. I'm trying to remember. Uh, there's a certain spell. I'm just slipping my mind what it is. Yep, got to go have a good one. Yeah, it's all good. But yeah, if you're doing monster tactics, you got to think individually about every creature on there, at least to some extent. You want to focus more on the big guys. Bless, Eluder X1. What do you mean, bless? Exactly. Oh, are you talking about the spell bless? Bless. I'm trying to remember exactly what that one does. I think it's an okay one, if I recall. I think it gives like some small buffs to your weapons, if I recall. Is that the one that gives like a +1 or something? Let me look this I don't have every spell in the game memorized. That would be insane. Yeah, buffing spells, 100%. Those are really, really good to use. Some are much better than others, but buffing spells, they're very, very nice. I've seen them used insanely effectively. They don't take nearly as much thought and tactical mindedness as battlefield control spells, and they can be incredibly effective. Like, really, really good, especially things like your classics of things like haste. Yeah. Danielle Martin Martinez Vicarza. What's up? Just doing a live stream to thank everybody for helping me hit my 100 subscriber milestone. And thank you, everyone who's shown up. I really appreciate everyone hanging out. But yeah, haste is amazing. Haste is probably the best buffing spell out there. At least it's very much up there. Action economy is huge in the game. That's one of the best ways to get stronger is to increase your action economy, and haste increases your action economy. That's what it does. And yeah, that's super big. Keep going, dude. Yeah, appreciate it. It's nice to come to 3.5 videos on YouTube. Yeah, I'm glad you enjoy that. Uh, Personally, I'm not a big fan of 5e, as you might have guessed from my many videos. I'm not like anti 5e. Like 5e is fine, but 3.5 is so much better in my opinion. And yeah, I'm very, very big on it. P.S. It's pronounced Alder. Gotcha. Alder X1. Got it. Appreciate the correction on that. I actually do like to pronounce people's names right. So, yeah, I legitimately do appreciate you correcting me on that. So yeah. Um, yeah, as for what Bless, I'm trying to remember what Bless does. Morale bonus on attacks. Yeah, that's pretty much right on that. It's a good first level spell for paladins and clerics. Gives a +1. It's not amazing, but it's all right in the early game. It's all right during the early levels. Once you start getting to higher levels, though, uh, it takes a standard action to cast, so it's not going to be around for a lot. It's only a minute per level, which is okay. So like if you've got if you know that if you're like in a dungeon and there's probably going to be combat happening in the next few minutes, yeah, Bless is pretty good. You might want to put that on. It doesn't do a lot. It's just going to give you a +1, but that +1 could be the difference between hitting and missing. So that's a big deal. 5e core lacks magic objects. Yeah, 5e core lacks a lot of stuff. It really does. But yeah, Blessed is perfectly fine. It's great early game. Late game, you're only going to want to use it if you're dungeon crawling. There's really no other time I can see Bless being particularly useful. You don't want to use that during combat. It's not enough of a buff to warrant a turn. It's just not. Or even a quickened spell. You're much better off putting a different spell there. Bless is it's all right. But if you're dungeon crawling and you've got a little bit of time between fights, and you're going to be getting another fight in the next few minutes, you're pretty sure because you're going from room to room. You're not spending too crazy amount of time. Yeah, Bless it's a great time to cast that. That's the only time I see it being potentially viable. You don't want to be doing it while you're out traveling. It doesn't last long enough. Odds are you're not going to encounter anything. It's not an all-day buff. Although I guess you could do it. There's ways to make it an all-day buff, in which case it's fine. But typically dungeon crawling. IP core. Hey Mitch, just found your channel about 2 weeks ago. Your videos are super helpful, and there's so many. Yeah, I'm glad you found it. I really appreciate that, Michael Gmail. That's a cool last name, Gmail. But yeah, I'm glad you appreciate that. Um, uh, I do have quite a few videos. I've made a lot of D&D 3.5 videos. I think I'm probably over 1,000 at this point. But I'm really glad you find them helpful. I do fully intend on making a lot more. I've covered most of the core stuff. I'm working on covering, every single class race and prestige class, as I've mentioned. I think it's what, the middle of the video. So yeah, or wait, is that the end? I don't remember. It's actually been a little while since I've recorded a new video. Most of the stuff that's been coming out lately is old stuff that I recorded months ago and then just scheduled to upload much later. But I am working on actually recording some new stuff. Although there actually still is a lot of old stuff out there. I think I still have like 60 videos that are uh, pro, that are scheduled to come out later. So I have like 60 scheduled videos still that'll come out over like the next year, where I'm going to be making some more. Help me figure out the direction I wanted to take my wizard in 3.5. I am pretending to be a ranger to the rest of my party, and since they're novices to D&D, it's going very well. Nice, nice. Ooh, that can be fun when you like kind of pretend to do it. Actually, the video that just dropped recently, my surprise sorcerer video, kind of has a similar idea to that, because that one, it's all about like pretending to be a fighter when really you're a sorcerer. You're out there casting high level spells. It's not super optimal, but it's kind of cool. It's just kind of a cool little gimmick I came up with. Do you know the specifics of the extended spell feat? I'm considering picking it as a human wizard, level 1 in D&D 3.5. Does extended spell work with only one spell it is given to once you choose the feat? No, it can work with any. Used on a spell, used on a spell any once a day, or used on all spells because it's a feat. So, okay, so this is how all meta magic feats work. You pick it, and it works with any spell. So when you prepare your spells at the start of the day, sounds like you're a wizard, so you would be preparing them. What you would do is you would say, okay, I have what we say extended spells. So forget how many spell levels that one ups it. But because you have extended spell, any spell you wanted, you could you could prepare as an extended spell at the spell slot several levels higher. Um, uh, I'll get to yours in one sec. What is it, Alder? But yeah. So basically, how it works is, let me look at extend spell to see exactly how many is. I don't have it memorized exactly how many spell levels the feat extend spell ups it, but I know it ups it some. Let me look it up. Extend spell, one level higher. Okay, so with the extend spell, say you have a fireball. Well, okay, fireball's not a terrible example, but say you have a spell with a duration that's a third level spell. What you could do is you would then say, okay, I'm going to, today when I prepare my spell, instead of prepare, I'm going to use a fourth level spell slot to prepare an extended version of this third level spell. You can do that with all your spells. So all of your first through ninth level spells could be extended versions of spells one level lower if you wanted. They don't have to, obviously, and probably be stupid to extend all your spells, but you absolutely can. Any spell that when you take the extended spells feat, it works for all spells. It's just going to be one level high. It's just going to be prepared in a slot one level higher. But you can do it as much as you want, any spell you want. You just take the feat once, and you're capable of doing that as much as you like. It's not once per day. You can put literally all your spells, but you have to, as a wizard, figure out what you're doing at the start of the day. So yeah, hope that answers your question. What's that? Mole C. Let's see. Eluder or Aldir. Sorry, I'm trying to remember. Let's see. Will you do epic books like the 10th level spells and epic classes? maybe disclose rules of epic level, since those tend to be obscure. Yeah, that's actually something I am planning to do at some point. I do have the epic level handbook. I know that's technically 3.0, but I do own that book, and yeah, that is something that I have planned in the future. That actually wouldn't be a bad one, because the rules just change at 20. Once you get 21st level, it's like, okay, half the rules that you were that always applied, yeah, those don't apply anymore. Now we're using different stuff. So that gets weird. So yeah, that probably would be a good video. And my current game that I'm running is actually epic level. It's 26 level. So yeah, that's a great idea. I definitely plan to do that at some point. Yeah, I was on my way to watch that video and saw your stream. Uh, I charged the big bad guy of our first few sessions with a dropped longsword. Even was biting my lip while taunting him, only having 5 HP. Wow. I charged the big bad guy of our first few sessions with a dropped longsword. Even wow, that's crazy. Um, I'm glad I could help. We'll see. That's total. Uh, let's see, Michael Gmail. Oh, that's total. I was a level 1 wizard. Gotcha. Yeah, level 1 wizard. There's only so much you can do. Magic missiles probably your best spell initially. Um, it's going to be solid throughout, but magic missiles really good at first level. Um, there's not You're very, very limited as a first level wizard. First level wizards bad. Wizard's a weird one. Like wizard at first level, they're one of the worst classes out there. But by 20th level, like they're one of the best. They have a weird curve. Unlike fighters are pretty solid early on, and then they start by the end, they're like, they're not nearly as good as a wizard. They become very underpowered. Wizards start out underpowered and get very powerful. Um, Although magic missile can be quite useful. A bunch of wizards with magic missile can take down like very powerful characters. So yeah, and that is not true of any other one. Very powerful characters can mow down low level fighters. So yeah. Um, Meta Magic in 3.5, you have to prepare. So Aldir X1 said, Meta Magic in 3.5, you have to prepare the spell with the prefix at the cost of the specified upcast cost. Maximize is 3 levels higher at the top of my head, for example. Yeah, I think maximize is 3. So like if you had the maximize Meta Magic, let's see, then you go on to say you prepare 3 normal wall of stones, and then you make one of them extended. Yeah, you can absolutely do that. So if you have the extended, the maximized spell, you could prepare a fireball as a 6th level spell slot, or you could prepare. So you could prepare a Maximus Fireball as a 6th level spell slot, or you could prepare a regular Fireball as a 3rd level spell slot. Both work. You could do both in the same day. You can do multiples of each. It's really however you want to mix it up. Meta Magic's pretty versatile like that. It's about as good. It's very good. It's not particularly limited. I've been using True Strike. Ooh, True Strike can be nice. With a heavy crossbow, took the rapid reload feat, even to keep me covered early on. Can't use 2 outward of magic outside of light spells if I want to keep my cover, sadly. That's cool. Yeah, True Strike will help you get that, make it look like you have a good base attack bonus, even though you don't. That plus 20, I think it's plus 20 to hit with True Strike. It's very nice. The problem with True Strike is it does lower your action. It's low on action economy because you have to spend like 2 actions to get one that's practically guaranteed to hit. Yeah, it is very nice. It's bad for action economy because you have to use 1 spell to get 1 plus 20 to hit. So not ideal in that regard, but for what you're doing, yeah, that's pretty nice. Yeah. And it's not terrible even with action economy in mind. It's best used for high damage combos. Yeah, it can definitely be used for high damage combos. If you have like, if you want to combine that with, somebody using power attack for full, to to take away the fact that they're losing 20 on their attack. Yeah, that can come in real handy. Or if maybe they're hard to hit, power attack for full. Maybe they're a paladin and they're getting some bonuses from that. Yeah, you can do some stuff. Although the paladins get like a big bonus on that, anyways. But yeah, that can be really really nice, especially when combined with power attack for full or other stuff that's crazy like that. I think a full power attack with a two-handed weapon or something is one of the better ways to do that, especially if you have things that up your damage even higher. Or Michael Gmail, or even something as mundane as making sure a rare poison hits its mark. Oh yeah, that'd be good for that too. We have an alchemist, so I'm going to plan on that. Yeah, that can be really nice. Even better if you can find a way to like lower your opponent's fortitude save somehow. That could be very, very nice. Uh, Elemental vulnerability debuff into two strike disintegrate. Oof. I'm not familiar with elemental vulnerability debuff, but that sounds really nice. True strike disintegrate. Ooh, disintegrate can be so nasty. Does so much damage, and the fact that it just destroys the body if it kills. Yikes. Um, uh, and that's whether or not they succeed on the fort save. The fort save just determines whether it does a pretty good amount of damage or an insane amount of damage. That's really the only difference on the fort save with that one. Let's see. Elemental vulnerability debuff. Oh yeah, you already said that. Yeah, that's. I think I'm not from. As I said, I'm not familiar with that particular spell, Alder, but sounds like it's probably pretty good. Being able to make someone more vulnerable to like fire and ice and stuff, because things that elemental immunity and resistances are fairly easy to get. So yeah, it's not a bad idea to find a way to lower that, to make it so that your attacks can do a lot more damage, because there's a lot of really hard hitting attacks that do elemental damage. Some of the most hard hitting magic spells, elemental damage, often fire, which is why so many people just use fire resist. Like if you're smart, fire resist is just a great spell, and fire immunity, because there's so many hard hitting fire spells that it's just smart to put that on there. And so many monsters that have it, that have fire attacks. The fire resist is good for a player typically, and also like for monsters and stuff. So many players are commonly using fireball. Like, I mean, it's a meme. Using wizards using fireball all the time is a meme, and I mean, there's reason for it. It does have fireball does have one of the like it does have really good DPS for its spell level. Like the amount of damage that it can do for a third level spell is very high, higher than most spells. It's one of the better ones in terms of that specifically. Now there's a big trade-off on that, and the fact that I think fireball has what now it's a reflex save. I think its spell resistance is applied to it. It does fire damage, which you can just be immune to or resist. So there's a lot of ways that you can defend against somebody casting fireball, to make it so that when they cast fireball, you take no damage. Evasion also helps with that. There's so many ways to make it so that fireball just does nothing to you, or does very little, that it kind of takes away some of the some of the potency. But it does, if it actually hits, it does a ton of damage. For backstory reasons, he's Michael Gmail saying, for backstory reasons, he's planning petty revenge on high level casters to try and limit how many exist. So my main overarching build is to be a caster killer. Ooh, nice. Would be really cool is if there were actual good builds for caster killers in 3.5, which most of the prestige classes that are designed to be caster killers are bad. They just are. like the Occult Slayer, it's specifically designed to be a caster killer. It's not good. Like it's not good, and it in order to be a caster killer, you really need to be decent. The Arcana Mock's not bad. It's probably one of the better caster killers, but at least that I've seen. But it's still not exactly great. It's all right. Um, uh, a become what you hate to destroy it kind of deal. That actually is very much the motto of the Sul Arcana Mock, if I recall. Um, yeah, I think the Sul Arcana Mock is very much designed around that exact concept of, or not the exact concept, but of a very similar concept. It's one you might want to look into. I know I made a video. I'm not sure if that's up. I think it is. But the Sul Arcana Mock definitely, definitely worth that video. I totally mispronounced the name Sul Arcana Mock every single time and called it Sul Arcana Maka. Don't know why I put the A at the end, although not the worst thing in the world, because the tome that they use to become a Sul Arcana Mock is called the it's called the Arcana Maka. So it's sort of kind of correct, but it isn't, But yeah, that is a mistake I made in that every single time. I even made a mental note to pronounce it right, and nope, pronounce it wrong every single time. When I edited that video, I was cringing the whole time. That was bad. But I'm probably going to go Eldritch Knight. Eldritch Knight's pretty solid. The problem with Eldritch Knight is, well, there's a few problems with it. It's good on offense. Some of the big downsides are it's hard to get into, for one. The requirements are fairly high, and two, you don't get a lot defensively. It's mostly just full base attack and full casting. That's really all you get for it. But it's not bad. But you're probably gonna want to use some other prestige classes to help you get in earlier and get some more bonuses. Um, yeah, Eldritch Knight isn't bad, but you're gonna want to use other prestige classes to help you qualify to get in, um, because you just lose a lot meeting the prereqs if you don't use other prestige classes. Um, I'll check to see if you do have a video. Thanks for the suggestion. Yeah, of course. That one's very different. That one, it has its own casting, not super high level casting, but it does have its own. So it's a unique one. It may or may not fit what you're trying to do, but it's worth the look at the very least. It's pretty decent. If you do decide to go the Eldritch Knight method, I would definitely look into other videos that do that. Other, what is it? It's a Gish build, I think. Yeah, other Gish builds. I think I have a video on Gish builds that would probably help you out with that one. Off the top of my head, I believe, what was it? The Spell Sword. That one's a good one level dip that you'd want to take. And I think you actually do, from what you were just describing, qualify for the weird, unique prereq for the Spell Sword, which is to slay a monster using force of arms alone, without resorting to magic. Sounds like you might already qualify for that. I'd have to. I don't know all the details of that encounter where you killed the guy with the sword, but I don't know if you used magic for parts of that as well. But yeah, that one's one that you generally, in order to hit, you want to try and hit early, because that back when you're fighting, when you're have like a level 1 fighter, that can be that makes it a little easier. But yeah, that one. But if you are going Eldritch Knight, you definitely want to take like a level of Spell Sword. There's a few other really good ones as well that I mentioned in the video, so definitely take a look at that. Yeah, but yeah, if you're looking to be, if you're looking to do that, the Surprise Sorcerers, it's an interesting one. That one mostly is, I think it has like a single level of fighter, but that one more focuses on the spells that you know. That one uses a weird method of just know a bunch of spells that don't have material components, and then you don't have to worry about uh, then you don't have to worry about arcane spell failure. You can just wear full plate armor and or any type of armor and be able to cast your spells without penalty. Just got to make sure there's no somatic components to any spell that you know, which has its flaws. Most of the good ones have somatic components, so you're very restricted in your spell selection when you do that. But Silent Caster is a feat too. It's called Silent Spell. It's a meta magic feat. That wouldn't help with using armor, but that would help with your whole stealth and making people not realize. You might want to do stuff like uh, still spell would be even more important because that would have let you do it in armor. Like you could cast spells while wearing armor. The problem is you're using higher level spell slots. It isn't an optimal thing, but it is kind of cool. So, you know, it really depends on your game, like how min-maxed your game, like how powerful your game is. If everyone in the team, if like everyone's min-maxing and the power level is really high because of it, you're gonna want to doing stuff like that can be detrimental. But if that's not the case, if you're playing, a more level game where people are making more average looking characters, yeah, 100%. 100%. These are very doable. The best ways to beat a caster is to kill their mobility. Yeah, that'll help. Prevent their spell casting. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Ambushes, burst damage. Yeah, those can be really nasty. Damage over time is really nasty for casters too, because if they have damage over time, then anytime they want to cast a spell, they have to make a concentration check versus the damage that you're doing with your damage over time. So, yeah, damage over time is really nasty. Things that do like 5 damage per turn for the next several turns, those are really good on casters because they have that extra effect of anytime a caster is casting a spell, they have to roll against that damage, a concentration, which generally they have high concentrations. But if you can get those numbers reasonably high, like you can make it so that there's a chance that they'll fail and create a small spell failure. It could be very well worth it. It's very casual. That's good. And I'm not trying to min max everything. Just have an idea what I want to do stat wise, so you don't end up useless later. Yeah, if that's the case, then 100% this build will be fun. That sounds really fun. Making this build just make everyone think you're a ranger when you're not. I've seen crazier stuff in the game I'm running currently. It's been running for like 3-4 years now, but during I think its first year, I had one player who made a pixie who was just invisible all the time, and he had I think he was an arcane hierophant, and he made his companion familiar, a bear, and he convinced the entire party that the bear was his character. Like out of character, we all knew, but in character, everyone thought that this bear was his character. We just had a talking bear, and he was just using spells in order to make the bear talk. It was interesting. It was a very interesting one. So, sort of. It was Arcane Hierophant. So it was Druid, I think Sorcerer, Arcane Hierophant. Very, very powerful one. Arcane Hierophant is such a good prestige class. It gives, it's only so good, but in terms of Thurge classes, Arcane Hierophant is one of the best Thurge classes in the game. It's really good for a Thurge, I think the Urge. I always want to pronounce it Thurge, but I'm remembering that no, it is actually the Urge. But anyways, yeah, the Mystic the Urge, very very Arcane, not Mystic the Urge, the Arcane Hierophant, very good. The Urge class. There's a lot of great spells. to bother them later too, like Babel, Deafness, Blindness. Yeah, there's some fun ones. Otto's Irresistible Dance can be a very both bothersome and very effective combat spell. Oof, Otto's Irresistible Dance is so good because it just kills the target's action economy for a while, and it makes them provokes attacks of opportunity. So it's so good. Um, yeah, it doesn't do any damage, but dang, it's such a good spell. Um, uh, it's like the Sir Barrington green text. Yeah, a little bit. But yeah, the whole party thought that this familiar companion bear was. We thought that was the player when, no, it was just his familiar companion that I think they had like ghost sounds or something in order to make it sound like it was talking from time to time. Something like that. They didn't. He just used some basic cantrips to give it voice. It's not really hard to do something like that. Um, yeah, it was a very funny one, and he was just invisible the whole time. At that point in the game, nobody had to see invisibility. At this point in the game, everybody does because now everyone's like level 26. But back then, they were like level 12. Whatever you pick spells in D&D, always remember action economy is king. Yes, 100% action economy really is everything in D&D 3.5. It really is. I mean, there's a reason why one of the best epic feats is the one that lets you cast an extra quicken spell per turn, especially seeing as you can just take it multiple times and its effects stack. It's like, yeah, don't just take this a bunch of times. Now I can cast a crap ton of spells per turn. It's so busted. I mean, granted, they all have to be quicken spells, but yeah, your action economy goes insane. Although you do burn through spells very fast when you do that, and it makes you it makes you just weaker in a sense that you just don't have the longevity to keep going for long periods of time. That is a bit of an issue, but yeah, action economy it really is everything. Although, like if you're dungeon crawling, you also got to keep in mind not burning through spells too early. That is something that wizards and other casters have to think about a lot. More so scions, in all honesty, like scions and other psionic classes, because they're a lot more limited in their resources. But they have to you got to really think about, okay, yes, I could beat this guy, this early dungeon monster very easily with these spells, but then I'm not going to have them for the boss. Maybe I should save those spells for later and, make this particular fight that I'm in now go worse. But if I go too easy, maybe he'll kill us and we'll never get to the boss. So you have to keep in mind, like, a lot of stuff. So you got to constantly think, okay, how hard do I want to go on this guy? Do I want to save resources, or do I want to go all out, or do I want to go somewhere in between? That's something casters have to think about when dungeon crawling. Fighters don't have to worry so much. They can swing their sword as much as they want. Most things that like fighters and rangers have, they're things that they can do plenty of times per day. Barbarians have a little bit of thought with that, with rage and how many times they can do that. But something like a fighter, I mean, you can do that as much as you want. Rogues as well, like their sneak attack isn't limited by per day. It's limited to, like, they can only use it in certain situations, but if they can set up the situation, they can do it as much as they want. So a rogue doesn't have to think about, should I save my sneak attack for later? No, if you can set up a sneak attack, freaking do it. Although, maybe you're setting up using Tanglefoot bags and you got to think, okay, should I use a Tanglefoot bag here? Because I only have so many of those. Although you could buy a fair number, they're not that expensive, but still, they have to think a little bit about that. Fighters, the only thing they got to worry about is, okay, this is just an early fight. Do I really want to have my health go down, risk that here, or do I want to fight a little bit more tactically and, maybe don't kill him too quick, because, if I kill him too quick, like if I go all out, maybe that'll open me up to another guy and then I'll take some damage and then it'll be hurt for a later fight. They got to think about that a little, although, sorry, my eye's itching. More often than not, it's better to just kill the guy, because when you kill a guy, you kill their action economy, and then you take less attacks. So more often than not, the fighter's best strat is just go out all the time. Um, is there a best familiar to pick? It really depends. Familiars doesn't matter that much. You get small bonuses to your stats. Plus, they can do kind of little things. Like if it's a rat, they can like slip through corners and you can use them as spies. Like you can use your familiar as a spy, but honestly, familiars not that good in 3.5. You can use them to try and deliver touch attacks too, but there's a huge risk to that. If your familiar dies, you take pretty nasty penalties. I think you lose, I forget exactly the amount. I think it's, what is it, 100 experience per class level of wizard that you have, or sorcerer, or whatever your casting class is. You lose like 100 experience or something per level. It's nasty. That's like 10% of the experience to get to your next level. It's bad. It's something you really, really want to avoid. So you don't want to be sending your familiar out into the front lines too often. So the to deliver touch spells aspect, it's cool, but it's really risky to be using it like that. I heard a bat helps you see invisible. I don't think it helps you see invisible, but I think it might give you bonuses on your spot or listen checks, which can be helpful for that. I think probably spot listen, if anything. I think bats are terrible at seeing. But if yeah, most likely listen. So it'll help you like hear an invisible opponent a little better, because I think it gives like a +2 to listen, which is kind of cool. And by kind of cool, I mean it's decent. Some of the best skills to take: spot, listen. Those are some of search, things that give you information. Very, very good. Knowledge, the various knowledge skills can be very useful. Yeah, flying can also be very useful. You're right. Just absolutely terrible with pronunciation. Let me scroll up, see if I can remember. Alder, that's it. Alder. A flying familiar tends to have more use more often. Scouting is always useful. Yeah, 100%. Flying is very, very, very good in 3.5. Although when everyone's flying, that can make the DM's job a nightmare from the DM's perspective, because now you're in a situation where you're trying to, do the combats on your all your tactical movements on a 3D map, on a 2D map, but it's the fight's happening in 3D. It's like, okay, how high is this guy flying? How high is that guy flying? It can be a real mess trying to figure that out. Flying, I mean, if it's just one or two guys flying, it's not so bad, especially if it's just one. It's pretty easy to deal with. But when like half the field is flying, it's just like, okay, where is everybody exactly? How high up is everybody? What angles is everybody flying at? As far as I know, there's not good software to deal with that, which is problematic. How long has your game been going? That your PCs are 26 level? Did they start at level 1? So that's a good question. We started. Oh, when did we start? We started. So I started with my college. It was part of the our college's Dungeons and Dragons club, and we started it. Man, was that? I think it was my sophomore year. So it's probably like 4.5 years now, something like that we've been going. We started at level 1, yes, but I did power level up to about level 15 or so. Basically, what I did was, in my particular world, I set it so that uh, yeah, basically, there were various mechanics in place that made it so that everyone got 10 times golden experience for the first few sessions. And there was some lore about that as well, that I kind of worked in to make that kind of sort of make sense. And it does fit with the main plot and everything. But yeah, but since then, they've been leveling up sort of slow, just because in order to challenge them, I have to throw insane, massive dungeons with crazy combats. Like they were level 23-ish, and they spent a year dungeon crawling. There was a single dungeon. They spent literally 1 year of real time going through this dungeon. They had the same spells that they had. Like, it was 1 day in game time, but it was a full freaking year in game in real time. That that can happen when you have a lot of min-max players at very high levels. The combats can go absolutely insane in terms of length. It was a huge, massive dungeon too, and I did that to, like, I wanted them worn down by the time they got to the boss, and it worked. But it was a year. It was a literal year of all of our lives getting through that, and we had fun. It was good, but man, those high level combats, they're major, major time sinks. Combat gets insane. Um, let's see. Was it Alder? Yeah, that was right, I think. Flying is good and bad, since now the DM has to study trigonometry while also giving every enemy an anti-air option. Yep. Luckily, I'm a STEM major. I got my degree in electrical engineering, so that's much less of an issue for me. But yeah, uh, that's a thing. So yeah, it can be a problem with that, and finding anti-air options can be an issue. And you got to give that to a large number of everybody. I wouldn't give it to everybody as the DM. If your player's all flying, it makes sense that there'd be some guys that just can't deal with it that they could own, but you'd want to give a decent number of guys some anti-air options, so your party just doesn't wreck everything with no challenge. A couple of things, sure, but not everything. Budley, Budley, I think is how you pronounce that. Hey, love your vids. I'm currently playing a level 5 Warblade, and I don't really know what to do at level up. Is there any nice Tome of Battle guide out there? P.S. I'm new to 3.5, playing for like 5 months now. There probably is. I'm in a part of a D&D 3.5 community where a lot of people post stuff like that. Tome of Battle is great. I haven't looked into it a ton personally. I really need to, but I don't own the books, so that makes it a little harder for me. And I'm very old school, and I can look things up, and I have done it. I do it plenty for videos, but I prefer not to. So I'm not super, super familiar with Tome of Battle, but my players have used it a lot, so I know how good it is. Basically, when you level up, you just follow the chart. So you look to see what you get for 6th level, assuming you want to stay in Warblade. There's also prestige classes and other classes you can take, so you can multi-class. So you can take the 1st level of another class or a prestige class instead of the 6th level of Warblade. And you just get all the stuff that the chart says for the 1st level of that one. The only notable thing you got to watch out for with multi-classing is when it says you get 4 times skills at 1st level. That's not true. That's first level, not the 1st level of the class. So you just get normal skill points. But other than that, you just take everything that it says you get for taking 1st level of a new class. Make sure you qualify for it, all that fun stuff. Check for feats. Every 3 levels you get a feat, so at 6th level you would get one. Every 4 levels you get an ability point, so you could just add one to one of your either strength, dex, con, wisdom, int, or charisma. Slightly out of order. Well, I named those slightly out of order. Anyways, but yeah, you can you get that every 4 levels, so 8th level would be the next time you get that. And make sure you roll your health. Pick any spells, although I don't think Warblades get those. So, but you might have to pick some maneuvers or whatever. But yeah, definitely that's really all you have to do when you level up is think about those things. And if you're just going straight, if you're just creating a level 5 Warblade, I mean, you just look at level 5 Warblade. So, and when you see like level 6, like that's what you get for level 6. So if you're going from level 5 to level 6, you look at the change between 5 and 6. So you wouldn't add 6 to your base attack. You would add the difference between level 5 and level 6, so which is 1. Yeah, you see that it goes up from 5 to 6. Okay, it goes up. It's pretty simple, straightforward stuff. Yeah, nothing too crazy complicated about multi-classing or about just leveling up. I think I do have a video on leveling up actually. I think I made one that's just called Level Up and tells you all the stuff about leveling up. So if you want to check that out, that'd probably help you with leveling up. I don't have anything specific for Warblade yet. I probably will at some point, but I've got a few other books to cover before I get to Tome of Battle. But yeah, um, it's a good class. Don't get me wrong. I've seen plenty of people use it. It's one of the best, if not the best, martial class out there. So very, very good. You just get so much. But yeah, I don't have a ton about. I don't have, I'm not like super familiar with Warblade. I've seen my players use them in my game, but I haven't. But aside from my players using them against the monsters I've thrown at them, I haven't done a lot, which I really should research them more with how much my players are using them. But I haven't, and I have a little bit though. But yeah, it's not a bad. It's a good one. So yeah. I hope that answers your question. But yeah, as Alder was saying, yeah, flying, it's very good. being able to fly is very, very handy, especially if you can get your and another thing about flying is your maneuverability speed. It is so crazy. So if you have perfect maneuverability speed, that's easy to deal with as a DM. But holy crap, if you have like clumsy or average or really anything that isn't perfect, then you have to start thinking about, okay, what's your maximum turning angle, and um, uh, figuring out maximum turning angle. That can be a whole hassle to try and enact those rules. It can be something trying to figure out all that and figuring out motion with, especially when you have to think about like how far up you can go when you're flying at an angle. That can be like you really need you need geometry. You need to like start using some like differential equation or it's not differential equations. You need linear algebra. Like it gets so math involved. They don't really have a good system in place to like figure out the numbers. You really need to like get into heavy math to try and figure out flight mechanics if you want to do it properly. I mean, you can just kind of guess and check too, but yeah, mostly bats have blind sense. Nice. Blind sense is pretty good. Always mix it up with blind sight. I think blind sense is one of the better ones, if I recall. Lets you like know where things are at nearby. Yeah. Blind sense is the one that makes it so that you can sense anything that is nearby. If I recall, I believe you need line of effect to them in order to sense them. So if they're like in a different room, it's not, you can't use blind sense. But yeah, that's good. And I think it's 30-foot radius. That's pretty good. Blind sense it's a pretty nice one. Lets you know what square they're in. And I think you can actually target. I think it might even let you target them. It's a very, very good one. Very similar to Tremor Sense, except for Tremor Sense only works on things on the ground, but does not require line of effect. So you can sense things in other rooms. But that does require that both you and the target are on the ground. There is actually reasons to have both. Seeing as, although most of the time they overlap, blind sense will let you see things that are flying that are in the same room, and tremor sense will let you see things that are on the ground in a different room, and the other won't for those. So there's reasons to have both so that you can be able to see the bat that's flying in your room, but also see the golem in the next room that's on the ground. with both, you'd be able to see both, and you wouldn't be able to see both without both. But yeah, sense invisible. It's pretty nice. Other good spells for dealing with invisible things are things like glitter dust is amazing. If your opponent, if you're dealing with a lot of invisible stuff, glitter dust is so good because the main purpose of glitter dust is making invisible things visible, and there is no save on that. Now, granted, you have to know which square they're in, but if you know where they're at, you hit them with glitter dust, boom. Then everyone can just see they can't see them, but now they're covered in glitter and everyone can see the glitter. So, they can see them in the same sense that, as you've probably seen in movies, when there's an invisible guy, you throw flour on him and boom, now everyone can see him. They just see they just see flour over top of the dude. They don't actually see the guy, but they can see a flower outline running around. So, yeah. Uh, yeah, that's pretty cool. Glitter dust is really good. Plus, it can blind. There's like a fortitude. I think it's a fort save. No, it's a reflex save for blinding. And or is it will? I can never remember what the save is for that one. I think it might actually be will. But yeah, you have that, and it's not a particularly difficult save, but at the same time, it's there. Um, let's see. Since blind sense also lets you see through fog, no problem. That is true. It does. And fog spells can be really nasty. So, yeah. And konnichiwa. ¿Cómo está? I don't really speak Japanese or Spanish. A little bit. I know them enough to recognize that those are the two languages you just used. But my Japanese is very, 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 very limited. I know like a handful of words. It's pretty much non-existent. Like I know maybe half a dozen words in Japanese. Pretty far from fluent. Como in terms of Spanish, it's much better than my Japanese, but it's still far from fluent. I could probably order I could probably order food in Spanish. Probably. That's about as good as it gets, though. And I wouldn't do it very well. I would not be speaking properly. I could probably speak it well enough that the waiter would understand what I want. He'd be like, "Man, your Spanish sucks, but I kind of get what you're going for. But I think I know what you want." Like, that's about as good as my Spanish is. I really don't know things beyond that. But yeah. Let's see. Blind sight versus blind sense. That one's always confused me. I know blind sense just lets you see stuff. I forget what blind sight does. That one's one that I'd have to look up because I know there's a difference and I know it's important. But yeah, and Alder, hello, how are you, Spanish speaker here? Gotcha. I figured I thought that's what that was, but I wasn't for sure. And I'm doing well, by the way. And I mean, konnichiwa is obviously not Spanish. That is definitely Japanese. But yeah, it's one of the very few words I know in Japanese. So I know a little Spanish. Like I can count to 10. I can order, and I know like a lot of food words, but that's about it. Very much monolingual. But I know little bits of a few languages. Japanese and Spanish are actually two of the ones I know the best. Although my French actually took 2 years of French in high school, so I know that one a little bit. Although, man, is it not good. My language skills aren't. I'm very fluent with English. I'm like, it's my native language. I speak it well, but yeah, I don't really know anything else anywhere near well enough to speak. French and Spanish would be the only ones that I would even consider attempting to try and speak. And even then, I can get like a couple of sentences out. And then if the conversation goes beyond that, I'm like, all right, I need to switch back to English. I don't know what's going on here anymore. But yeah, they're good. My Spanish and French are good enough that if I hear people speaking them, I can pick out like words here and there. But that's about it. It's pretty bad. Yeah, my Japanese is horrible. Like, it's pretty much non-existent. I've learned most of my Japanese from watching anime. Like, it's not good. That's not a great way to learn it. Like, you can pick up some, but to say I'm competent would be would be a massive overstatement of my abilities. Food is important. Yeah, that is true. So if I was in like Mexico or Spain or something, I could probably order food that I liked. I could probably be okay with that. Um, I'm a picky eater, but I know enough to be like no tomatoes, no lechuga, like no lettuce, no tomato. Well, actually, I said in the other order, but whatever. Like I'm a picky eater. I don't like my veggies. That's just me, though. Very unrelated to D&D. But yeah. Um, let's see. What was the last thing we were talking about in D&T? Blind. Oh yeah, blind sense versus blind sight. That one. I'd have to look that up. Have you ever seen Record of Lodoss War? It's a really cool anime based on D&D, a D&D, I think, campaign. Ooh, that sounds cool. I haven't heard of that, but that does sound really cool. Like, I'm a big anime fan. If you didn't know from the fact that, I mean, my channel's mostly D&D, but there's a decent amount of anime stuff on there, particularly Naruto. Um, so yeah, I'm a bit of a weeb. I haven't heard of that, but that does sound really cool. Thing of note: Spanish speakers tend to be fast at talking while also using an insistent amount of slang. So good luck to newbies. Yeah, yeah, that's something that's true. I've lived in an area that's heavily Hispanic for most of my life. So I'm fairly familiar with Spanish speakers. I've heard it spoken many, many times. I don't understand it most of the time, but I've heard how fast they speak. Um, and yeah, although I have heard why they speak faster. Basically, I think what it comes down to is in Spanish, it takes more words to communicate the same amount of information, so they speak faster. Apparently, all humans, regardless of language, they all speak with the same number of. They all communicate with the same amount of information per second. And Spanish just takes more words to communicate that, so they speak faster in order to get the same amount of information out quicker, or at the same speed. I've heard that's the reason why. I don't know for sure, but from what I from what I understand, that's the case. But yeah, that is why they tend to speak quicker, from what I gather. Well, from what I've heard, is it's just it takes more words to say this communicate the same amount of info. Um, Oletan, McClary. Um, I understood hello, but I definitely don't understand that. Uh, hey, Tired John. Hey, just dropping by to support. Quick question. Play a level 15 druid that can turn into small to medium sized dragons in aberrations. What is the most powerful form I can turn to of each? Ooh, small to medium. I don't know that off the top of my head. So if you go to the monster manual, you can look at there's 10 different base dragons. There's various other ones as well, but there's 10 in the monster manual, and you just kind of want to look at the CR, see which one has the highest CR for medium dragons. You definitely want to go with a medium. Medium dragons are definitely stronger. Bigger means stronger almost 100% of the time. Um, guarantee you the strongest one is medium, because there's going to be a medium one in one of the size categories, and it's going to be stronger than the medium from another one. There's it's 100% going to be a medium. Just look for the highest CR medium. There's probably going to be about a dozen or so of them, maybe 2 dozen. I don't know. Just Gold Dragon is the strongest in general. Red, then silver. Those are the three strongest. It's probably one of those three, but there's a lot of factors involved when you're limiting it to a particular size category. So it's really hard to say. Slayers is another good fantasy comedy one. Reminds me a lot of lighthearted D&D campaign with the fourth wall jokes. Interesting. Um, Not I think I've heard of Slayers, but I haven't seen it. I don't know much about it. The name sounds familiar though. Lados War was an early '90s great show. Nice. I don't know much of like the early anime. I didn't get into anime till like Dragon Ball Z. So like I know a lot of like 2000s anime and beyond, but early stuff, I know Dragon Ball Z was kind of 90s, but like it didn't hit the US until the very late 90s. And I'm American. I didn't have access to stuff that like I didn't know how to find this kind of stuff. I come from a small town. So as a kid, I didn't know anime existed. So it's hard to be an anime fan when you don't know it exists. So it's something I discovered in my adolescence and fell in love with. I've been a huge fan since, but I didn't know it existed until then. Let's see. Yep, and words tend to be longer in general. Yeah, that makes sense. Playing. I kind of understood what you meant. Daniel Martin on Turris feats for a level 6 bard. Ooh, level 6 bard. Well, one of the best level 6 feats in general, probably the best level 6 feat is leadership. That's just broken. It's actually particularly good on a bard too. Um, ooh, bard's feats. You're generally going to magic feats are pretty good. Depends on the kind of bard you want to play. If you really want to optimize, you want to like focus heavy on magic. You want to look into like prestige classes too. Like if you really, really want to maximize, you want to think like all the way up to level 20. You want to like have a 20th level build in mind at first level. You want to know exactly what you're going to do for all 20 levels when you start the character. But if you don't have that, just general stuff, good stuff that'll help with your magic. Um, if you want to focus on the combat aspect, which isn't super ideal, might be good to do the ones that let you cast in heavier armor, because you could technically wear full plate as a bard. Not the most optimal method, but it's a thing that can be done. Yeah, bard's a tricky one. It really depends on what you want to do, since bard is such a versatile class with so many different options. Um, Tyler John, what about the strongest of the aberrations? I'm not sure. Aberrations is one I'm not super familiar with, but there's definitely some. Uh, yeah, I honestly don't know that. I'd have to look that one up. I don't know that off the top of my head. Michael Gmail, the lady who did the voice for Lena, the main character of Slayers, was also the Japanese VA for Jesse and Pokemon in Ray and Evangelion. Nice, nice. That's cool. I personally watch most of my anime dubbed. I know there's a huge controversy on that, but I personally prefer the dub. I watch Naruto both dubbed and subbed, but most anime I watch dubbed, just because I'm lazy and don't like to read, for the most part. But yeah, that's cool. I'm more familiar with American VAs than I am the Japanese ones, though. So, but that is pretty cool. Sorry, my keyboard sucks. It's all good, Tire John, or Tier John. I'm not quite sure how to pronounce that. Daniel Martin on throws. There's leadership. Yeah, leadership's absolutely broken. Don McClay. Yeah, hey Daniel. Yep, don't speak Spanish. Yeah. Yep. I just don't speak Spanish. Like I understand Spanish accents pretty good because I grew up with them. And I worked with some people with some very heavy Spanish accents, so I'm actually very good at understanding people with heavy Spanish accents. But that's mostly, and I can order food in Spanish, but that's about it. Um, uh, Bard should focus on control spells. Oh yeah, those are that actually does sound smart. Debuffs things since other classes have more damage on average. Yeah, bards are quite good at that. Yeah, bards are very good at controlling spells. Uh, just because controlling spells are ones that don't they tend to the scale better, and they don't need, like, you can use a lower level spell and they still tend to be good at higher levels. They don't need scaling like a lot of like blasting spells do in order to like remain viable. um the English for Slayers is super funny to watch. Different voices, with different jokes, even at times. Interesting, yeah. Especially with older anime, that can be a real that can be a real challenge. Older anime dubbed. I know dubbing gets a bad rep, and when you look at the old stuff from like the '90s and '80s, yeah, the early '90s. By the late '90s, they're starting to figure it out. I mean, that's when DBZ hit the scene, and they did a pretty good job with that. Like DBZ and Sailor Moon, and there are a few other like ones that did a good job. Like not many in terms of actual '90s. Yeah, I think it was just DBZ and Sailor Moon that were actually good in the '90s in terms of dubs. But by the 2000s, they were starting to figure it out pretty good. There's so many like early 2000s and late 2000s anime that are well dubbed, and they get really good at the new stuff. There's still a lot of mess ups in the early 2000s, but like or just 2000s in general, like the Four Kids One Piece, which had a good rap, but other than that, no. Like the theme song was good. Let's see. That was about the one good thing I'll say about that one. Okay, Spanish no more. Sorry. Say something. You want me to say something in Spanish? Okay. Let's see. I can't do full sentences really, but uh, un burrito, a burrito, más carne, no lechuga, no tomatos, por favor. Yeah, I want a burrito with uh, more with I think more meat, no lettuce and tomato. I'm pretty bad at it. Like that's about as good as I can get. Um, uh, yeah, my Spanish is not good. That's about as good as it gets. And I recognize it's not good. Uh, um, Martin, uh, uh, Dakil, Daniel, Martin, oh, on Deverant, it's a little, okay. I'm starting to understand that that's French. My French isn't very good. I took 2 years of it, but I got a D that second year, and I worked my butt, and I barely squeaked by with that D. So I'm not good at French. um, yeah, there are some truly great ones too, like DBZ, Cowboy Bebop, Yu Yu Hakusho. Oh, I love all those. I actually, I think that my banner actually includes a lot of my copies of those. But yeah, DBZ, huge fan. Cowboy Bebop. I've never actually seen it proper, but I've seen most episodes. Great anime though. It just came on really late back when it was airing, so I never watched it fully through. But I saw a lot of it. Yu Yu Hakusho, love that one. Have that one on DVD. Great anime. Uh, like DBZ was like the first major anime I really got into, and Yu Yu Hakusho I was really big on back in junior high, but it was so short. I really was only big on it in junior high. I mean, it's okay. It's a long one, but it's not like Naruto or Dragon Ball Z or One Piece or Fairy Tail. It's not. It's compared to those, Yu Yu Hakusho short, although it is a fairly long anime. Since most animes are like 13 to 26 episodes, so Yu Yu Hakusho is way bigger than that. But it's not. It's a medium length one. It's a solid medium length. Slow is a great debuff. So, oh yeah, killing action economy is great. Auto's or Irresistible Dance is also an amazing debuff spell. Good dubs. DBZ, Sailor Moon, Pokemon was decent enough to. But yeah, Pokemon was a good. I forgot about Pokemon, which is funny because I'm literally wearing a Pokemon shirt, like right now. But yeah, Pokemon, great anime. The dub was amazing, and that theme song for Pokemon, man, that first theme song was fire. Like that's a good song right there. But reason to play 3.5 instead of the newer systems. Johnny Haynes. Basically, yeah, you have Alder's definitely answering that one. 3.5 is optimization heaven. Yes. There's a lot of builds you can do, but underrated, some broken, many different. Yeah, there's a lot of broken stuff, but more so than 5e. But there's so much more optimization and so much more customization. 5e, when you make a character, you're like, okay, I'm going to be this class and this subclass. And that's like 90% of the build right there. You can pick feats, which add a little bit of flavor, but 90% of your build is just choosing your class and subclass. And it's mostly done. With 3.5, you have to pick your class. You have to think about, okay, multi-classing. Am I going to take prestige classes? How am I going to if you're going to take dips in classes, which feats do you take? Like there's so much little things that can go into making a character exactly the way you want it. That it can change the build dramatically. There are so many different combinations of things you can do. What kind of gear do you want? That's not as big. That you have far less options in 5e. 5e is much, much, much more user friendly. Like, don't get me wrong. 3.5 is not the best to be picking up for a casual player that just wants some role play. Just wants to do some role play. This is it can be a very intense system. If you're casual, 5e is better. And if you don't, especially if you don't know what you're doing so much. But yeah, 3.5 is really, really good for customization and optimization. There's right on that. If you want to make characters the way you want and really want to dive into rules, like the way to tell whether you want to play 3.5 or 5e, one way to look at it is if you're playing an RPG and you see a skill tree and it is just absolutely complex, and you look at like this RPG and there's so many different options everywhere, and you're just looking at everything and you're like, ooh, this seems fun. Let's figure this out so that I can make the coolest character ever. 3.5 is the game for you. If you look at all that crazy complicatedness and think, let's figure this out to make something cool, then you're going to love 3.5. If you look at that and you're like, this is too much, I can maybe start with 5e, maybe move to 3.5 later once you figure some stuff out. But 3.5 can be very overwhelming, but it's very fun if you like if you like min-maxing, and if you can like stare at rules books and just like get lost into thoughts of like, how do I make this awesome? Those are the reasons to do 3.5 over the newer systems. There's just so much more you can do with it. Let's see. My friends bully me. Michael Gmail says, my friends bully me because I would say something about a situation in that show seconds before Yusuke said the same thing, worded the same. Even nice. You had Yusuke figured out to a T. He's a fairly simple character. I mean, Spirit Gun, it's a fairly simple move. I mean, the guy wasn't exactly a complex character, although he did undergo a very dramatic character arc, but he was still a simple guy at heart. But he changed a lot. It was a really good character. I liked him a lot. But there are clear emperors and gods in the system. Yeah, there definitely are gods in 3.5. A lot. There's a lot of lore. There's so many books. If you have all of it, like it can get absolutely ridiculous how much lore is in this game. Fave character I played, Roger Lanchester. He was the inspiration for my what did I call him? The survivalist build, I think is what I called it. That video, he was the inspiration for. He was a fighter druid. Yeah, really good character. I really liked him a lot. But yeah, he was my absolute favorite. Far from optimal. He literally just did odd levels fighter, even levels druid. But so I love that character. to an insane degree. I actually wrote 130 some pages of handwritten backstory that's not even finished, because yeah, it's absolutely insane, to the level that I went with that guy. I even started writing his actual story, and I got like 140 pages handwritten. It got insane. I was thinking of like maybe like making a novel series based off him. I started working on that. But yeah, he was a self-made survivalist, I think was what I called it. But yeah. Um, I sat in for one night on a 5e game because they didn't have a thief. They threw one together for me fine. If I failed the lockpick, etc., the fighter stepped in and did it. Yeah, that's yeah. 5e did a lot of that stuff. They kind of got rid of a lot of the specializations, and um, like in 3.5, if you're up against undead, rogues are horrible. Clerics are amazing. In 5e, they nerfed that a lot. Because rogues can do sneak attack to undead in 5e, and clerics healing spells. I don't think they actually hurt undead in 5e. Actually they don't. So yeah, you can't just hurt an undead with healing spells in 5e. In 3.5 you can. You can both heal and heal your allies and hurt your enemies with the same spell, which is great. In Pathfinder, I know they nerfed that to one or the other. Like you get to pick which one you want, but 3.5, you could do both. They were so good. Clerics are so amazing at dealing with undead. Are you playing or running any games? I am. I have a game I run every Friday night where with some friends. I don't run anything like on stream or anything, or I don't run anything with other people. It's something I've thought about. I've definitely thought about doing like a game with fans, but yeah, I don't know. Before it was I wasn't sure if I would be able to get people to do it. Now I'm not sure. Hard to say. This has been a very lively live stream, by far my most lively. Although I guess my last one I had 200 subs. Now I have 500, so I kind of expected there to be a bit of a pickup. So I have like 2.5 times as many subscribers as I did last time, which is amazing. Thank you guys so much for subscribing and supporting the channel. Yeah. Let's see. Michael Gmail, true to his core virtues, but he definitely changed in demeanor from episode 1 to episode 100. The stakes being so high for so long made him very cool and calm instead of a snappy punk. Yeah, that is very true. Yusuke, and one of his biggest character moments was at the very start of the show where he jumped in front of the car to save the kid. Like that is probably one of the biggest, most dramatic changes in Yusuke, and it happened literally at the very start. Anyways, I've gone on slightly longer than I was intending to, so I think we're going to wrap this up here. Thank you guys all for showing up. I should be doing this at the same time next week. It might get changed. I have got in some job offers, so that might interfere with work. So I'll definitely make. I'm still going to be doing 4 more of these live streams for hitting 500 subs, but I'll keep you posted on when they're going to be dropping. But yeah. For now, I think I'm going to wrap this up. Let's see. All their 3.5 videos on YouTube are so rare. I was very surprised to find that your channel is still active. I really appreciate that, man. Yeah, I've been really pushing hard with it, especially with the pandemic. So I've had a lot less. I've had a lot more free time on my hands. Michael Gmail utterly shake his window, and he spends a few episodes just coping. It was good to be here. I may have been late to the party, but at least I made it. Have a good one, Mitch. Au revoir. I do understand that. My French is definitely good enough to recognize the goodbye. Yeah, au revoir. Yeah, I will see you guys next week. Hopefully, maybe the same time. Maybe it'll be a different time. I'll keep you posted. It really depends on work and if I got the job, and yeah, I'll let you guys know. But for now, Um, uh, anyways, as always, I'm Mitch. I'll be seeing you.